Hey everybody, welcome back to the North Star Takes podcast with Jacob Liberto and Bailey Palicki. Feel free to give us hit that subscribe button below for our YouTube channel, and also give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter as well. And we're going to start today by talking about the Minnesota Vikings tight end position and what we're looking at going into the 2021 season here. Now, I think the big headline here is that Irv Smith is finally going to be tight end one with Kyle Rudolph officially out of the picture in New York. So we're really going to see what all the hype has been about these past couple of years. That's what I truly think, unless maybe Clint doesn't incorporate the tight ends as much as we think he's going to. But Bailey, what are your thoughts on Irv kind of sliding into that tight end one role?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why he can't have a big year. The Vikings don't, as we talked about in our previous video, they don't really have like a true wide receiver 3 option. So Irv Smith is athletic, he's quick, he can run good routes, he's got good hands. He's more of like the modern style tight end that you see with like Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Darren Waller, those types of guys. He's athletic enough where he's almost like a big wide receiver playing tight end. So there's no reason that you can't get him the ball, get him out in space. He can pick up chunks of yards. I felt like last year he was just kind of forgotten about. He had some injury issues, but I think his talent is so high that if they just gave him the ball more, you could see how much of a star he really is. I think between Jefferson, Thielen, Irv Smith, and Dalvin Cook, that's really like a true four-headed monster, I believe. So I think they just need to trust Irv Smith more, unleash him. The Vikings haven't really used tight ends a whole lot the last couple of years. I don't really understand why. Maybe it's a Kirk thing more than
it's one of those Kirk trust things.
Maybe it's more him than like the offensive coordinator or something. So yeah, there's no reason for him to not perform well this year, and I'm very excited to see what he's capable of.
Yeah, honestly, me too. I'm just waiting for him to have his coming out party, because I feel like these last couple of years, there's been all this hype in camp, and maybe the Vikings are going to use him a little bit more this year, maybe using him in more creative ways, but it just hasn't happened in the first 2 years. So I'm really waiting for it, especially here with Rudy out of the picture. I mean, he's going to get a ton of snaps. I mean, granted, I think he was already playing a lot last year because the Vikings like to play a lot of 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end sets. But the thing is, I think they got to incorporate him in the game plan more, because like you said, he's a very athletic guy. He can get out and move. Like you said, he's a huge, just basically a big receiver, but he's not like, his speed isn't detrimental. Like Rudy can move that well. Yeah. But we got Irv who can actually, make moves and basically evade tacklers sometimes. But I want him to get more of a look. And maybe it does, like you said, maybe it does come down to Kirk, because I feel like he has one of those things where it's like he's zoned in on, for instance, before he got comfortable with Jefferson, it was all about Thielen last year and basically nobody else. But
that's true.
I think he's got to be able to trust all these other guys that we have, because all these guys got here in their own right to the national stage and in the NFL, and they earned the roster spot. And I just think that these guys were all as well high draft picks. Like Irv was a second rounder once upon a time, and I just think there's so many different reasons why they can get Irv involved, and I think it's got to start this year in year 3. And I think it could be a potential breakout year as far as him being personally motivated, because he's in the 3rd year of his rookie contract. So then
that's a good point.
He's a second-round pick, so 4-year contract. Go maybe have some leverage after this season to sign an extension before the rookie contract runs out. So I think there's something to be said about that too. But as far as we've kind of talked about Irv Smith and how he could help us in the pass game, because he can hopefully be the 3rd best pass catcher on this team this year. Right. I mean, he should be. But looking at, like you said, our wide receiver depth. But how do you feel about his blocking? I feel like that's dramatically improved since his rookie season. Would you say?
I'd say so too. It was kind of a surprise to everybody. I think that the Vikings wanted him to block so much coming into the NFL these last 2 seasons. Granted, when you have a guy like Dalvin Cook, you're going to need to learn how to block. But I think he's been more than willing as a blocker, and I think he's done a good job improving that area as well. I mean, there was a couple times last year throughout the games that he was highlighted on a replay for a great block, and it's like, that's Irv Smith out there throwing these blocks. So
I know.
I mean, if he's willing to show that he's willing to do stuff like that, I think that the sky's the limit for him, because that shows the team that you're willing to work hard, you're willing to do what's asked of you.
It's got the heart.
Exactly. Yeah. And maybe that'll be rewarding for him this year. He'll still have to block, but maybe he'll get rewarded with more touches, more touchdowns. So I think it's nothing but a great sign that he's willing to do that.
Yeah. Do you think, just kind of a little bit off topic here, thinking about the grand scheme of things, comparing Irv to tight ends in the rest of the league, do you think he has the potential of being a top 10 tight end this year?
I do, for sure. Yeah, I think especially like if you think about it in fantasy football terms, especially after the top maybe 4 or 5 tight ends, there's a considerable drop off.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it kind of is in lockstep with the way tight ends are ranked in the NFL too, just by position without factoring in stats and stuff. But I think he definitely has that potential, and it's just going to depend how often he gets the ball from our quarterback and what the offense is looking like. Some games we might just be running the ball a lot. Some games might be a huge Jefferson or Thielen game. So it's just going to kind of depend. But I think if he can get a decent amount of touches, he'll prove that he's a top 10 tight end in the NFL.
Yes, I totally agree. Clint's got to get him involved. I mean,
Yes.
it's time for this big showing for Irv. I think I want to see him catch 50, 60 balls and hopefully like 7, 8 touchdowns, and then maybe push 800 yards.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I think that'd be a pretty stellar season, especially if he's going to be our third pass catcher. I think he hopefully will get close to those numbers. I know Thielen and Jefferson will definitely carry the load, and rightfully so. Those guys are great receivers, top 10 receivers in this league. But I think Irv also deserves just some looks, just because I think there's going to be a lot of, like you said, this Vikings offense is so talented that the defense is going to be paying attention to all sorts of different things other than Irv Smith. So, like, he's going to have his opportunities, and I think we just got to take advantage and just use them. But,
yeah, absolutely.
But kind of going beyond Irv Smith, I think we got to show the Gronklin some love.
Oh, yes, Tyler Gronklin.
Tyler Conklin, he had a great season last year, honestly. I mean, I think he kind of came out of nowhere for most fans, and he really solidified himself when Rudy was out, and he just played the role well and really made it easy for the Vikings to move on from Rudolph this past offseason. So what do you think the outlook's like for Tyler Conklin this year?
Yeah, I would say he had a very surprising year last year, and it was great, honestly, to see. I mean, he'd always been kind of like this project tight end that kind of had some raw ability, but you didn't know if he was ever really going to crack the lineup. But it almost appeared that him and Kirk had a good connection going there for a few game stretch. So it'll be interesting to see. I think, as long as he can stay healthy, I think he's a solid number 2 option at tight end. He complements Irv Smith really well. He's another guy that I don't think he's quite as good of a blocker as Irv Smith is, but he's a good pass catcher. He can make some moves in the open field, which, going back to Rudolph, that's something Rudolph could never really do. Breaking tackles or, juking somebody.
Oh, come on.
So, I mean, neither of these tight ends have the red zone ability that Rudolph does. They're not as big. They don't have the long arms. But
and the hands are hard to match.
The hands are the big part, too. But I think the Vikings are in really good shape with their tight end room, and they even got guys at the end of the roster like Brandon Dillon, who's been a practice squad player the last couple of years, who's shown some flashes. So I think like between wide receivers and tight ends, the Vikings have done a good job of just developing talent there.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. It's all in-house talent. I think that's what you like to see as far as roster building goes. Like, obviously, fridges are nice, and those can sometimes put you over the top as far as, like, being a good team to a great team. But I think it all starts, like, the core of your team has to be homegrown talent. And that's, like you said, that's what we've done at the wide receiver and tight end position. And kind of going back to what you said about Kirk Trust and the Gronklin, I think that's another thing I've always wondered is how guys like him and these receivers really build rapport with Kirk. Like, how do people set themselves apart to, like, kind of get Kirk to look their way and really trust him and throw him the ball? Like,
that is interesting to think about.
I'd really like to know what that dynamic is behind the scenes, because we all know Kirk's an interesting duck.
Very true.
He's a cool cat, but I'd like to know what's going on behind the scenes. Like you said, kind of came out of nowhere. Maybe everybody in the Vikings building thought he would kind of step up when Rudy went out, but I don't know. Is there anything else you'd like to add about the tight ends?
I don't think so. I'm expecting a big year out of Irv Smith, and hopefully him and Tyler Conklin will complement each other well, and hopefully that can make up for the lack of wide receiver depth as well.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think, kind of lower on the depth chart too, I think we're going to see a good camp battle, actually, through the preseason, getting guys, like you said, Brandon Dillon, aforementioned, he was on the practice squad, and then you have our Zilster brother on the team too, and he apparently has built up some rapport with our guy Kellen Mond.
Boy.
But stay tuned for that. But can't wait to see these guys go at it in the preseason and see, honestly, who really rounds out that third tight end spot on this roster. But
yeah, absolutely.
That's going to do it for this edition of North Star Takes Podcast. Be sure to like this video, like all of our videos, and hit that subscribe button below. And again, give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram. We appreciate all the support, and give some thoughts on how you think Irv Smith is going to do this year. I think he's due for a breakout year, but what are you guys thinking?